Welcome to Storytime. I'm your host and author, Cherie Baker. Today we'll be reading from Coffee Cakes and Dragon Eggs, a cozy fantasy set in modern-day England. Enjoy! Chapter 5. Raj stopped walking a good 10 paces before the tavern's door and glanced at the address he'd saved on his phone's map. This was definitely the last imp dampener in Stockport. He hesitated to move any closer. The location on the map had hinted it'd be rough, but the flat roof, adverts for 24/7 streamed sport, cheap lager, and a chalkboard for next week's meat raffle all looked so seedy. If he had any other choice, he'd give this one a miss. The location made sense. If any of the dampeners had been tampered with, this place probably got the least amount of council oversight. He needed to move quickly. It wouldn't be hard to just go in there and fix that dampener. Raj tucked his phone in his jacket pocket and marched into the pub. The sooner he started, the sooner the machine would be sorted. And after that, catching the Fremlin would be easy. Little more than a formality. The promotion was as good as in the bag, and this whole messy encounter would be nothing but a memory. Inside the shadowy pub, a man behind the bar sliced a box of snacks open with a serrated steak knife. He shook them into a large bin on the counter. Further down, the stink of magic wafted around a man leaning an elbow on the bar. His dark brown coat looked to be oilskin, not leather, so the guy was only a junior mage. The fellow took a sip of his drink, as if he wanted it to last all afternoon. Raj strolled up to the bar. "I'll have a cola, please, and another of whatever he's having." The fellow threw her head back with a laugh, casting what little light there was in the room on Tamsin's face. Her habit of wearing shapeless combat trousers and bulky coats had fooled him once again. She turned to Raj. "If you're buying, I'll have a pint of Guinness." He didn't want to know why she was here, but it'd be good to finally prove himself in front of her. "You know where the dampener is?" She tilted her head slightly, indicating a hall that led to the loo. Raj saluted. "See you back here for a victory drink." Around the corner, a 30-year-old fruit machine blinked kaleidoscope colors, beckoning the unwary to part with their hard-earned cash. In exchange, the tumblers charged the magical charms that kept mischievous imps away from the city. Why this was allowed, but his spell that used mobile phone signals were forbidden. It made no sense, other than the great, all-powerful Sir George backed the fruit machine idea. 30 minutes later, the fruit machine's base panel leaned against the wall near a neat pile of 20 little screws. Raj fed another coin into the slot at the front and pressed the start button for the 100th time. The tumblers scrambled. The yellow lights flashed as the dials spun, a new collection of fruit for the display. After a few seconds, the tumblers settled on 2 lemons and a banana. A multi-level anti-imp charm ticked over in the back of the machine. The bloodhound carved onto the stone ring in his gaudy, magic-sniffing ruby ring blazed bright orange. The hound could detect any trace of magic within 10 feet of the wearer. The flashing lights on the game switched to red, along with a huge blinking "You lose" on the display screen, followed by "Want to try your luck again?" Although imp dampeners were tiny, fiddly clockwork, everything inside the guts of this machine appeared to be operating as they should. Therefore, nothing should have gotten through the network. But Paolo had insisted that there was a Fremlin at Shepherd Construction. Raj fished a coin out and hit the reset button. While the tumblers whirled, a friendly hand landed on his shoulder, along with the scent of cigar smoke. Raj's stomach clenched. Tamsin had come to gloat over his latest failure. "I know how they're getting in." Her soft voice whispered in his ear like a lover. Raj stood up, brushing cobwebs off his sleeves. "Yeah, well, I'll figure it out soon enough." "Really? Well, in that case, I'll mind my own business. Carry on." She took a sip of her pint, watching him over the rim. Raj glanced at his watch. Time was running out. He might figure out how the imps were getting around the protective charms before 3. But then again, he might not. If he failed this mission, his career was over before it even began. So what would it cost, to give me a hint? Oh, well, why would I charge such a good friend for a simple piece of advice? Raj's stomach clenched even tighter. The fake-out meant she wanted something big. The fruit machine lights flashed red and "You lose!" blinked across the whole screen repeatedly. Fine, good friend. Tell me how the Fremlins are getting around the imp dampeners. Her eyes brightened, knowing she'd won again. They're teleporting in. Rosh scoffed. Teleporting? It's not even real. Tamsin took a sip of her pint. That's Dad's theory, anyway. I overheard him talking to Paolo about it. Raj nodded. Paolo hadn't mentioned anything about teleporting. Either it slipped his mind or he thought George was talking bollocks again. Thanks. I guess there's no need to keep checking these. Raj slipped the gaudy medieval ring into his jacket's breast pocket. Despite being the standard acknowledgement for passing the guild's level 4 assessment, the bulky atrocity clashed with everything he wore. He knelt down to slot the fruit machine's panel back in place. As he threaded the first bolt, Tamsin tapped his shoulder. Oh, and friend, could you swing by my place when you're done here? I could do with your help. Raj's face suddenly felt too hot. Tamsin winked and sauntered out of the bar. Could she actually be coming on to him? Once he qualified, he'd be allowed to go on dates. So maybe she shared his affection? Maybe she just had a better way of hiding it? Or knew something about the review board? He shook his head to clear the wishful fantasy, but put the panel back on in record time. It wasn't that far to George's estate. Surely he could be a little late for his appointment at Shepherd Construction. The Fremlin wasn't going to leave on its own. If you've enjoyed this section, please like and subscribe. New chapters will be recorded weekly. Alternatively, check out the description for places to purchase the book.